Welcome to the lecture on logical operators. So let's look at logical operator. You go to material folder, example for logical operators. Open up these two files. So they are the examples that we'll see to understand logical operators. First we will greet hello and the name of that user if the user is logged in and has permission. So we'll define some variables and we will check that whether they have both the conditions are valid or not. Check if student is passed any of one exam, so we'll use OR condition here. Then we'll find the difference with another operator called and then this is another operator for OR. We're going to look into all these things and check if student is not passed and print the results. So we'll use a not operator here. So we'll look into all these operators. So let's go ahead and create the file. So I'll be doing it in the operators folder and I'll be using the console. Control N, Control S, and I'll save in the operators folder, which is under www. So let me copy all the operators here. Okay, so these are the operators. You have an AND operator, means both condition should be true. OR operator, any one of the condition can be true, and then AND also can be represented with double ampersands. An OR condition can also be represented with this symbol, and then you can use OR as a word or even this symbol. Okay, and then you also have if not, which is basically a not condition. Okay, so let's look into all these examples. So first example was to greet hello, so I'll copy this out. So we'll say whether that person has permission. So I'll use some boolean variables here and we'll say logged in. Okay, so the dollar permission is true and logged in is true, and then we'll say user is equal to John Smith. Then we'll say echo then we'll say hello user, or we'll say hello guest. Okay, so this is basically a simple check, and we're using the AND operator to check whether both the conditions are true. If both the conditions are true, then the true is executed, and if any of the condition is false, then the false is executed. Okay, so let's run this. So it's saying John, hello Smith, and we will print and if you make any of this is false, right, it will say hello guest. Okay, because the two of the condition has to be true in order to be true. If any of it the conditions is false, then it will be false. So I'll change back this to true and it's hello Smith. Okay, so let's look into the next example. OR condition, Control N, Control S, saving the file. So the next example is check if student pass any one exam. So we'll define a student, that is John, and we will check his maths passed, true, science passed is true. Then we'll check whether any of the exams is being passed by the student or not. So we say either true, either this or that is true. Okay, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to check any one of it is true, and we are checking with the student marks. We say so maths passed or science passed. Then we'll say $student has passed So we are saying any one of the exam is passed and the student is passed. And let's see what happens. So we say John is passed because any of this is true and both are true. So if this is false and this is false, then the John is not passed, right? Let's say if any of this is true, then John will be passed, and also the other way around, right? So any of the conditions are true, it will be true. Any of the conditions are false, even though it's any of one of is true, then it becomes true. If both are false, then it is false. If both are true, then it is true. Okay, so if you make this false, this is the last condition I want to show you, then that will be John not passed because both are false. Okay, that's the OR condition. Let's continue and do the next example. Copy the code. We'll do sample 3. Find the difference between and or. That will be interesting because you can replace and with ampersand and it still works, but you need to know when to use those operators. So we're going to find that difference. So this will be interesting to know when to use and operator and the ampersand operator. So we'll use two results. Result 1 is equal to true and true, true and false. Okay, then result 2 is also true and false. Okay, then we'll say let's print this out. So we'll compare the results. $result1, and then we will say true or false. Then $result2 will also true and false, and then we will print the new lines. Okay, can you guess the output? If true and false, what do you think it is? Obviously false. True and false, obviously false. So both should be false, right? Let's look at the operators now. But the result says it is false and true. It's true even though it is true and false. It's true. Why it is happening like this? Okay, that's interesting to know. Why the result 2 is basically resulting into true. Why not false? Because and is a false operator, right? And should say both should be true, and that's basically come up from an operator precedence. We will be covering this lecture in the last section, and we will look into this example again. But remember, there is something called as precedence. Means is equal to and are basically two operators happening on the statement. So which one has more precedence over the other? In the first statement, the is equal to and ampersand, the ampersand has more precedence than equal to. So this will be executed first. In the second line, the equal to has more precedence than and. That's why the equal to is assigned first, which is true. And even though its operator has been executed, it doesn't assign value to the result 2. So that's why the result 2 basically showing you the true value. That's basically the first values assigned to result 2. Okay, so remember this. We will cover operator precedence in the last, and we will play around with this. Okay, then let's look at operator 4. We'll do a similar exercise with OR operator, and we'll see what is the difference there. So this is sample 4, and we'll say OR and pipe symbol. Okay, I will execute this. This time it is true and true. Obviously true or false is true, true or false is true. Even then the precedence is equal to, it takes the true. Okay, so let's look into one more example of this one, wherein we'll say true or false. We'll put this condition here, true or false. Okay, it still works. If you say false, false and true, let's look into this. So it will have false because the equal to has more precedence than this. But if you put the same statement in the condition, there is no equal to sign, then it will execute properly. It will check true or false and it will be true, and then true will be assigned. That's basically the next condition. But wherein the true and the false, because the first value will be assigned first, then or execute, which doesn't assign to the result value. So the first value is false, that has been assigned to result 2. So the result 2 is always false and the false is printed. And this equal to sign is not available here. That's why the operator precedence is first is to execute this condition in the condition in the ternary operator, and then whatever is the value, that value will be printed. So true or false is true, so true is printed. This true is printed. This is false because the operator precedence for assignment is higher than the OR operator. Okay, so let's look at the next and final example. So I created a new file and I copied the same code, and we'll do the sample file. So the last one is to check if the student is not passed and print the results. So we'll say total marks, passing marks is 34 and passing marks is 35. So this total is basically the total marks that student achieved. The passing marks is 35. Then we will check whether the student is passed. Right, you can use the condition here. You can say $total greater than equal to passing marks. Then you can say, you can just say true or false. Right, then you can say echo if the student is not passed. So I'm using a symbol called not, and this not is will check the reverse. If it is true, it will check for false. If it is false, it will check for true. So we are saying whether he has not passed, right? Then we'll say if it's true, say not passed. Okay, if it is false, he say passed. Okay, this is an operator. It will check reverse of the condition. If it is true, it will check for false, and false will be true for this condition, and this will be executed. Okay, so I'm checking whether the student is passed or not. So let's execute this. So we are saying total is greater than passing marks, then it's true or false. Obviously it is false because total is not greater than passing marks. And then we have saying is passed, then it is passed and not passed. Okay, obviously is not passed because the total marks is less than the passing marks. And you have to reverse this condition. Then you say, okay, I want to check whether he is not passed. Then you have to reverse this condition as well, right? Because you're checking a false condition, right? So that's how you use the not condition. Well, the not operator will reverse the Boolean variable. So if it is false and you say not, it becomes true. When it becomes true, this will be executed, right? And if this value is true and you put a not here, it becomes a false, then this value will be executed. Means if you say 36, let's say 36, then the student is passed, right? If you say 34, the student will not be passed. Well, that's how to use the not operator. So we have seen not operator, we have seen or, and then we have seen and operator. Okay, and these are the operators called as logical operator. So that's all for this lecture on logical operators. Then I'll see you in the next one.